hurting yourself.
You certainly would be.
Night.
With more, let's welcome in Sky Sports Jamie Weir, who was there all week, pretty waterlogged. I'm going to guess, Jamie, from what the conditions were like. It was great for us to watch from afar. If you were to write the headline for the week that was, what would it be?
Before I get on to that, let me just tell you, I'm good friends with Rich Beam, who owns a Wanamaker trophy. And if there's one man who can drink out of the Wanamaker trophy, then it's Rich Beam. So I know that it can be done.
All facts here.
Yeah, all facts.
No notes.
Look, I just think it was an imperious performance from Brian Harman. And look, we love to see excitement and drama on the final day, and we didn't get that. And I was at Portrush 4 years ago when Shane Lowry also won by 6, and I perhaps felt very differently that day as a Northern Irishman, an Open in Northern Ireland, an Irishman winning on Irish soil. Perhaps it was a bit of a different feeling for me then. Yesterday, it certainly felt a bit flat, the atmosphere. The crowd there were obviously pulling for a Tommy Fleetwood or a Rory McIlroy, maybe even John Rahm or Victor Hovland. Brian Harman wasn't the champion golfer of the year that people were expecting. But my goodness, what a performance, a dominant performance. No other player in the field got to double digits under par. Brian Harman got there around about lunchtime on Friday and pretty much stayed there. 59 out of 60 putts holed from inside 10 feet. 6 bogeys made all week. On 4 of the occasions he made bogey, he made a birdie in the very next hole as Scott Tway was just touched. Bounce back ability was extraordinary. Only found 3 bunkers over the course of 72 holes. So just from tee to green, it was an absolute exhibition. It was a clinic and a deserving champion.
Since you brought them up, Rory McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood, what's their status? If you're going to diagnose those 2 players, Fleetwood still waiting for the first major championship, Rory looking for his first since 2014, finishes inside the top 6, and we term that a disappointment. Where do you think Fleetwood and McIlroy stand?
Yeah, well, I'll deal with both of them individually, even though for both of them, the story was kind of the same over the weekend, that they got themselves in the positions and just didn't capitalize on opportunities for whatever reason that was. Let's start with Rory, and I followed him for, I think, 12 holes on Saturday. I have never seen him so visibly frustrated. He was chuntering away to himself and yapping at his caddy, Harry, throwing his hands in frustration. His body language was so negative, and it just felt as if everything was going wrong for him. And, you know, people, armchair experts love to say, Rory McIlroy is a terrible putter. I don't think he's a bad putter. He's a streaky putter. When he gets hot, he's very, very hot. But there seem to be so many opportunities shaving the edge on Saturday. And I think when you are as good tee to green as Rory McIlroy and you give yourself as many birdie looks as he does, it can be easy to think he's a bad putter because he doesn't hold them all. Well, on Saturday, he didn't hold any of them, really. And that's now the 3rd time in recent memory I can remember that happening. Saturday at the Open a couple of days ago, the final Sunday at LACC a month ago, and of course Sunday at St Andrews a year ago when Cam Smith went on to lift the claret jug. And it is hugely frustrating for Rory, I'm sure. And, you know, you used to say he's trying to win his first major since 2014 next year. Well, I think for Rory McIlroy, it almost feels like he's trying to win his first major because he's a different golfer to the golfer that he was 9 years ago now. And look, after his round yesterday, he just kept saying all the right things. Look, I'm playing good golf. I know if I keep knocking on the door, eventually it will open. But my goodness, it was frustrating having to watch him over the weekend. And for Tommy, a very familiar story. I mean, he came off the back of the 18th yesterday, utterly crestfallen, dejected. I spoke to his caddy and Finnis a little bit earlier on today, and Finno just said he was heartbroken, and you can see Tommy's tweet itself there, hurting, gutted, dejected. He knew that this was a great opportunity to win a claret jug, 15 miles as the crow flies away from where he grew up. The crowd were all pulling for him, and your heart reached out for him because, again, like Rory, he put himself in so many good positions and those putts just didn't drop. But you've got to feel as if Tommy will have more opportunities. It seems as if he's always got sort of one iffy round in him, and that was Saturday for Tommy. Yesterday, he was playing catch-up. But to be honest, for all of that chasing pack, even the great John Rahm, Victor Hovland, all those stars who were in the list behind Brian Harman, it would have taken something superhuman to catch Brian Harman because he was playing a different golf course these last 4 days.
All right, we started glass half empty from the European side. Let's go glass half full. And I had said this after Sepp Straka won the John Deere Classic, that the most idiotic storyline in all of golf is the fact that the Europeans are going to get blown out in the Ryder Cup and they have no depth whatsoever. Sepp Straka now a runner-up at the Open. When you start to look at the shape of this European Ryder Cup team, How bullish are you getting with their depth from, say, 7 to 12? Because we know how strong they are, say, 1 to 6 on that front end of the team.
I mean, I think now it's just a case of whether we win by 20 points to 8 or 19 points to 9, to be honest. No, look, a while ago, it wasn't looking great for Europe, and that American team was looking extremely strong. And, you know, that President's Cup victory last year, I think people thought, you know, 10 of that team were automatically going to be in Rome. Well, since then, you've had 3 players who weren't in that team, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harman, and Brooks Koepka, win majors. You've also had the renaissance of Ricky Fowler, of Keegan Bradley. So, look, Zach Johnson has lots of players to choose from and has some tough decisions to make. But for Luke Donald, I think the problem was his 1 to 8 was pretty set and world class. What was his 9 to 12 going to be? And now he's had Bob McIntyre come very close to winning his home open a couple of weeks ago in Scotland. Sepp Straka, back-to-back top 10s in majors, and that win, as you said, a couple of weeks ago as well. And Sepp Straka is the kind of player that when he gets hot, he is red hot. He is a birdie-making machine, and that is very good for match play golf. And then it's about making up the other 2 members in that team. And hopefully over the next few weeks, we'll see the likes of, I don't know, Adrian Moronk, one of the Højgaard twins, somebody like that, making a bit of a run for the team. Ludwig Aberg playing over in the PGA Tour. He's playing in Minnesota this week. So, look, I think things are looking a lot more promising from a European point of view than we maybe thought a year ago. And I've always been very optimistic, very glass half full when it comes to Europe's chances in Rome in September. And I remain so. And for Sepp Straka, that was wonderful to watch yesterday. I don't think anybody thought Sepp Straka was going to be the kind of player that would take to links golf and challenge for a claret jug. He didn't quite challenge for a claret jug because he was 6 shots behind Brian Harman, but it was a wonderful Open Championship for him, certainly.
The casual fan may have had to scramble to find out who Matthew Jordan was while watching the Open Championship, finishing in a tie for 10th, a Challenge Tour champion, but a relative unknown on this side anyway, 27 years of age. How big of a week did he have?
To me, this was the story of the week, and no disrespect to Brian Harman at all, but this was just lovely. You see him walking up the 18th fairway here, and I was standing next to this 18th fairway. The noise was incredible. To hit the first tee shot at 6:35 a.m. on Thursday morning, having been a member of Royal Liverpool for 20 years, since the age of 7. His dad's a member, his granddad's a member. The noise on the first tee at 6:35 a.m. on Thursday was pretty special. But this noise as he made the walk up 18, as he holed a birdie putt on his 72nd hole to qualify for next year's Open at Royal Troon. I mean, what a story that is. And I had goosebumps just being there, standing next to the 18th green, watching it. It was a hugely emotional moment. And for Matty, I mean, he just had a smile from ear to ear on his face all week. And it must be so surreal playing a course that you've played thousands and thousands and thousands of times, suddenly with grandstands everywhere and open signage everywhere. But he took to it like a duck to water. And as I said, for me, that was the story of the week. We're all hopeless romantics, aren't we? That's why we love sport. And that was the romantic story of the week. Matty Jordan, 20 years a member of Royal Liverpool, qualifying for next year's Open by holding a birdie putt on his 72nd hole.
I get chills to hear you say it. Jamie Weir, thanks a lot for joining us on Golf Today. Cheers.